Hello everyone. So I'm out at the Vietnam War Memorial in Cedar City, Utah, and I just wanted to share this with you, this place with you, and talk to you a little bit about the war in Vietnam. So Vietnam, obviously, it was a conflict in Vietnam, but it was actually split into two countries. You had North Vietnam and you had South Vietnam. North Vietnam was a communist country, and they wanted to spread communism into Southern Vietnam. And Southern Vietnam was more of a democratic country, and so we actually were allies. By the 1960s, we were allies with Southern Vietnam, whereas Northern Vietnam had more connection to China and the Soviet Union because of because of communism and their communist ties. But the Vietnam conflict was a conflict that a lot of people they supported in the fact that they supported the troops, but it was also very it was a very divided time in our country because a lot of people did not support the war. But 28,000 by 1972 or so, 28,000 Utahns were serving in the war, and it's estimated though that between 2 to 3 million Vietnamese were killed in the war in Vietnam, and 58,000 Americans were killed in Vietnam. And of those 58,000 and the 28,000 from Utah that served, there were 336 who were killed from Utah. Now, a lot of people, as I said, they didn't agree with the war. They didn't like it. They didn't even want us to be there. It was a very divisive time in our country, and there was actually protests here at home in all the different states. But there was also a protest in Salt Lake City. There was 4,000 people marched in Salt Lake City to march against the war, and that's a part of our country. That's a part of the freedoms that we have. But what's really sad is that some of the people who were protesting the war, they took out their anger on veterans who were coming home, and they weren't treated very well when they came home. And that's one of the reasons why Vietnam veterans don't talk about the war very much, is because the horrific things that they saw, but also that they weren't treated very well. They were just kind of told, put your uniform away and just come back into regular life. And for a lot of them, that was really difficult because of the hard things that they saw, but they weren't recognized for the service that they gave, because a lot of them were drafted. They had to go, right? Drafted means that you have to go and you don't have a choice. So a lot of people actually had that. They were dealing with that, right? They had to go, and some of them didn't even want to be there, I'm sure, right? Because being drafted doesn't give you a choice. So that was one of the problems coming home, and I've talked about this in class before. I think I talked about this on Veterans Day, that my dad was a Vietnam veteran. He was not from Utah, he was actually from Indiana, but when he came to Utah to go to college at Southern Utah University, and when he came back from the war, he went to college here. And people, when they found out that he was in the war, they would spit on him, and they would spit in his face. And because they took out their anger on disagreement with the war on the veterans coming home. And so that was something that everyone, all veterans had to deal with, and even the ones in Utah, they had to deal with that as well. But I wanted to share this with you a little bit because I think that Vietnam veterans need to be recognized, and that we were a part of it, and the people in Utah were a part of this war. So there's those plaques back there you can go and read, which are pretty cool. And then I wanted to share with you. So on the ground here, all these people, you can see like their names. All these bricks, they're people from Cedar City who served in Vietnam, which is pretty cool. Cedar City has done a very good job of honoring their veterans and people who served in the war and who died in the wars. But I want to share with this. So there are some flowers down here, actually, so probably from Veterans Day, which is pretty cool. But we were involved. Utah was definitely involved. We had 28,000 people who served in the war, and 336 of those people were killed in the war. But not only that, but something else did affect Utah as well. In Vietnam, there came to be a lot of refugees from different places that were affected by the Vietnam War. And so we had actually a lot of refugees from Vietnam come to Utah. And there were about 12,000 of them that came to Utah and settled in Utah to get away from their warring countries. So that also affected Utah as well.